Welcome to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show where we discuss all things political, bringing you the top stories locally, nationally, and from around the world. I'm Ruben Abati, and This Day Live begins now. I'd like to welcome today's panelists, Professor Bola Akinterenwa, Director General, Bulitac Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, and Professor Anthony Kila, Director, Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Now to our first story. The ruling party in Nigeria, the All Progressives Congress, held its second national convention in Abuja to elect new sets of leaders for the party. On Saturday, 18 candidates emerged unopposed, including the former governor of Edo State, Adams Oshiomhole, who was elected as the national chairman, and Otumba Niyi Adebayo as deputy national chairman, following the withdrawal of other potential candidates for the positions. President Muhammadu Buhari, who attended the convention, called on the party to set aside internal differences before general elections next year. The president, who paid glowing tributes to the party's founding fathers and long-standing members, attributed some of the challenges facing the party to the fact that the party is the ruling party. President Buhari enjoined party members to remain steadfast and work towards the party's success. Collation of results for contested positions are still ongoing. Now, we've been following, I'm sure, gentlemen, you've been following the story. And what's your take? What's your assessment of the quality of democracy that has been put on display? And what should be the agenda? And what should be the agenda for the next, for the new executive of the APC as a ruling party?
Well, after the convention, you want to win elections. You want to convince people to vote for you and, you know, put whatever program you have together. I think the convention so far has gone better than predicted because, you know, I thought they were going to beat themselves and tear themselves. They were able to cover a lot of things and manage it. I think it is APC today, but generally, it's still a sad reality that Nigerian politicians meet together, delegates, and they have more police officers than they have in Boko Haram areas. It is still sad that the roads are blocked in Abuja, and that there is no, you know, robust debate on big competition, big ideas.
But if you say that, you know, it went well,
yes.
What will you say about the scuffle, you know, the outbreak of violence at the convention?
Well,
even when the president was addressing the convention, delegates from Imo and Delta were engaged in a free-for-all scuffle. Yes,
exactly. Precisely. I mean, that is there, but consider what we're expecting might have happened. That is a bad thing, but it could have been worse. You know, let's put it that way. That is where we are in the country at the moment. We just manage things, and even bad things are good enough for us. It wasn't a great convention.
But are you aware that, you know, some aggrieved persons, major stakeholders, also boycotted that convention?
Well, a lot of them.
Dino Melaye called it a joke.
Yes.
Senator Kwankwanso stayed away.
I stayed away from it. And so a few others, actually, Menos, you're right, who stayed away from it. Well, they went away quietly. I predict that even some of those who were there yesterday and day before yesterday are still going to leave the party anyway. So it is, what they've done, they've been able to come together and put up a show and, you know, align the alignable and sort of ignore the non-alignable in a way. That's it.
Well, Prof, let me come to you. I mean, we hear often in Nigeria that when a convention is to take place or party officials are to be elected either at the ward level or the Congress level, there's always this thing about consensus candidates. How democratic is that, you know, choosing consensus candidates and just using the convention or the Congress as a rubber stamp ceremony?
You know, we've been talking conceptually about democratic dictatorship nowadays. I I wouldn't see any big deal about the convention, especially from the perspective of a school of thought. And I think that Professor Killer belongs to that one too, because he sees it as a good development. No, I think that we are promoting dictatorship within the framework of democracy at the level of the parties. For instance, what actually happened is that you now have a unity list, as they call it. Now you have someone who was elected to represent his constituency, and he gets there only to discover that his name, even though duly elected, all right, at the constituency level, he got to the venue, the name was not there. Now, if you are going to have a unity list, what prevents you from making it public? Let everybody know. You don't have to get to the venue to discover that you are, at the end of the day, not listed. That's the first point. The second point is that in an attempt to avoid violence, all right, to make progress, the organizers of the convention are not following the rules. The basic principles of democracy have it that, look, you contest, you have freedom to contest, you make it competitive. But when you adopt a policy and you decide on behalf of the people to write the names, to fix the names of who should be there, no, I don't think that one is good enough.
But you see, this thing you said is very true. But if we really want to look at it from a conceptual point of view, we have a deeper problem in the whole partisan political system, which is that we have boys pretending to be men. You see, this idea that when you say that imposition of candidates, block list, it is because there are boys that could be called to order. In your profession, nobody can do that because it's a league of peers. You see, the problem we have is that the people who are leaders, delegates are meant to be leaders of constituency. They're not people that you can impose on. They shouldn't be. In other words,
you are probably talking about the Godfather syndrome.
The Godfather syndrome.
It's a major problem in
It's a major problem. And also because...
Clientelism also.
Clientelism. But you see, I don't look at it from the point of leaders. The Godfather syndrome seems to be a father of dullards, let's put it that way, of weaklings who are pretending to be other people's leaders. Because these people are called delegates, but they do not have what it takes to actually be delegates. Delegates are meant to be, each delegate is representing hundreds of people, if not thousands. But they're not, they don't have the stuff. One day we'll get there when we shall have delegates. For now, some people are here, they won't pay their transport to get there. So, you know, it's not...
Well, I mean, the APC now has a new chairman,
yes,
former governor of Edo State, Adams Oshiomhole.
Yes.
And he has made a lot of promises how he will unite the party, respect the constitution of the party. Do you think he has the necessary support from various stakeholders within the party?
Well, he has won. He has to find it. He has to work hard for it. I mean, the truth must be said. You know, whatever it is, one should expect a better chairmanship from Oshiomhole than John Odegwu, who's left. That was a sleeping chairman.
That was what?
A sleeping chairman. He was a suit on the chair. He wasn't somebody there. Because of Oshimole's past and future, one will expect more engagement from him. He's not made a great situation, but you know, he'll make what he can of it.
Prof, what do you make of Oshiomhole?
Well, from his unionist history, he has the capacity. But whether the people will be prepared to go along with his thinking is a different kettle of fish entirely. If you look at, you rightly reminded us about near fisticuffs at the venue of the convention.
No, it wasn't there, it was real.
I know, well.
They were throwing chairs and tables.
Yes, I know.
Some people ended up in hospital.
Yes.
Simply because one group got there first, they sat down. One reason or the other, they went out to come back for another group to have been seated there. Now, how will those people go back home and then just come back to be easily pacified? It's not going to be as easy as that. But at least we can give him a trial. Let's see what he's going to be able to do.
Well, Anthony Killer, let me come back to you. You used the phrase earlier on about big ideas.
Yes.
Now, if you look at the APC, the PDP is also working on its own convention coming up later in the year, and then you have other political parties. Do you even see any trace that there will be any big ideas as we move towards the 2019 election?
Well, I think if left by themselves, there will be no big ideas. I think we, the citizens, opinion makers, and influencers have to force them to go towards big ideas. You know, by themselves, they don't have the tendency because what kind
of big ideas should we be looking for?
We need to look at big ideas to see how we can actually change the trajectory of the country in the sense that so far, in the last 8 years, particularly in the last 5 years, whatever we've done has been slow. When we do the right thing, it is slow. Otherwise, we're doing the wrong things. We need to understand that the world in which we're living now is rapid, is precise, and a lot of things are instantaneous. So we need to look at it that way. We're talking about housing. We need to see the deficit of housing in this country. We need to think of alternative way of doing things. We need to build mega cities, smart cities. We need to be talking about those kind of things. We need to find a way to engage young people who are under-engaged, not lazy, under-engaged, and find a way to use their idea.
Prof, you think these ideas will ever come up, considering that even these political parties, they lack real ideological substance?
Yeah.
You know, Prof is quite right with the way he presented the need for big ideas. My meaning of a big idea is this. The idea will be big if we are able to go beyond existing ideas. In other words, we need fresh ideas. Then defining big idea is also from the perspective of how best to achieve whatever political agenda that will be set. You know, politics in Nigeria has never been issue-driven. And now everybody knows quite well that whether it is PDP, ADC, Labour Party, anyone, issues of housing, infrastructure, all along. We all know this is what the people of Nigeria need. But none of the political parties until now has been able to come out to explain the strategies, the methods of attaining that. What made the 1993 election quite interesting was the debate between Tufa and MK Abiola. The debate was quite issue-oriented. They discussed the issues. And you can now see the competence quite well manifested by Abiola. So in this case, the need for big ideas in the forthcoming elections is a desideratum. It's quite imperative. And it will be at the level of how to go about the attainment of whatever agenda they are going to set.
And I think everybody who can, press, citizen, association, professional bodies, we need to insist that they have debates. They have to have debates at state level, federal level, presidency, everywhere. We need to all insist.
One last question for you,
yes,
Anthony Killer.
Yes.
And one of the reports was saying that at the convention, the statement was made that the slogan of the APC will be changed from change to progress, even if that has not been amended in the party constitution. Yes. What do you think? Is it that the change agenda is not working, so they're talking about progress?
Oh no, because they don't want to be changed. They don't want to be changed. So that's the progress. You know what? It's a good gimmick. If I was on the other side, I know that was progress, not this one.
Anyway, we'll go on a short break. Yeah, on THISDAY Live, the Sunday talk show. Plenty more when we return. Don't go away. Welcome back to THISDAY Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Now let's go to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe's president, Emerson Mnangagwa, on Saturday escaped an assassination attempt during an election campaign rally in Bulawayo. The event was rocked by an explosion as the president walked off the podium. The president's spokesman confirmed his safety, saying the president has been successfully evacuated. Local media reported that security personnel, several ministers, and possibly the vice president were hurt in the blast in the White City Stadium. Now, It's not just only in Zimbabwe that this happened. There was also a similar incident on Saturday in Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa, involving the new Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed. So you see that across Africa, you know, politics, transition politics, seems to be marked by violence. In Ethiopia, about 159 persons were injured. Some people died. In Zimbabwe, 2 persons died. Some people have also been taken to the hospital. In Nigeria, at the APC Convention, even if that was not a bomb incident, at least there was a fracas, you know. So what is it that Africans cannot just hold a proper political rally without resorting to violence?
My late dad used to say something, bad things spread.
Yeah. But I thought we were already making progress with democratic consolidation in Africa.
Yes, but you cannot cop these things. Professor Bola insists on using a phrase which is quite worrisome, especially because he's right. He talks about dictatorship of democracy. You see, what happens is when democracy is introduced in a system that has not been democratic for a long time, everybody embraces it, then people are patient. When people start to feel that the democracy they thought they're embracing is not what they are getting, they tend to resort to violence again. And it's something that is not unique to Africans. The only thing is that we perhaps were more prone to reacting. But I'm actually surprised because bombs are organized crime. That is not fist-cuffing or some people disagreeing with themselves. Yeah. When it comes to the point of bomb, we have to be very careful. It's organized crime. I mean, the Zimbabwe case, they have a history of organized resistance, of organized militia. So I'm not very surprised. But again, Ethiopia has come out of a long-time war. And this chap is actually one of the symbols, you know, of that long-time war.
And ethnic factionalization.
Ethnic factionalization. Because I think it's the Oromo.
Power contests between the Oromos and the other groups.
He's an Oromo. And then, you know, he's supposed to be the bridge builder, but, you know, there's still some discontent there.
Yeah, but in Zimbabwe in particular, there have been a number of conspiracy theories.
Yes.
That, you know, this is an attempt to take out the sitting president before the next election.
Yes.
Or that this is some indication of friction within the ZANU-PF. Prof, what do you think?
I think I share your view. Prof is quite right. You see, the situational reality about African politics is the factor of contradiction in many of the
fundamentals.
Yes, precisely the fundamentals there. On the one hand, the African Union will be talking about non-acceptance of a forceful change of government, and that if any person comes to power by coup, by non-democratic means, under no circumstance will that be accepted.
Yeah. That's now, in the Constitutive Act.
Precisely, yes. Yeah. Now, in this case, when you take the case of Zimbabwe, for instance, as a special case study, you will discover that Mnangagwa himself indirectly came to power by coup, military support, you know, and he's only there to complete the tenure of Robert Mugabe. This is the first time he would truly be tested in an election. Yeah. Now, when you have this situation on ground, and there is a serious misunderstanding between him and his immediate predecessor, one can begin to agree with you from the angle of conspiratorial theory. People have been suggesting that could it have been Robert Mugabe fighting back?
Or a faction within the army.
A faction within the army, yes, especially the supporters of Robert Mugabe there. Yeah. So when you look at this, because you cannot change power by force. Does it mean now that assassination is replacing that, so that we don't talk about coup d'etat, which is prohibited by the Constitutive Act of the AU, or what is it? But as Professor Killer has rightly pointed out, you see, the bottom line is that people are always aggrieved when they feel cheated. You can just imagine you prepare for a convention, all right? You are elected at the level of the constituency, but you get to the destination only to be disappointed. What do? You go back, you are aggrieved. If anybody now wants to use violence to plan coup, you are already an easy client, customer, you join. I think that's one major rationale.
But what's the implication of all of this, you know, for the coming elections in the two countries involved?
Well, I think part of the implication is, number one, now the incumbents will realize they're not as popular and as secure as they thought they were. You know, that's the first thing. Because normally, what happens in this country is that even when the incumbent is not popular, as long as the opposition force is not strong enough to threaten them, to threaten their economy, let's say, they don't really bother. But if you can threaten their votes, you can threaten their security, or you can threaten them financially, or you can threaten them through allies, that's when they take it serious. So I think, as from today, these two leaders are going back to the drawing table, and they're going to take their position more seriously, to know that these are people who are capable of doing, you know, of causing harm. And it's not up to the opposition. It depends. You're right, conspiracy theory. We don't know what is really going on. We need to see if this is a proper, organized opposition that can go beyond violence, or this is just inside demonstrations.
Prof, do you see the situation in both countries resulting in a wave of political witch hunt as both countries move forward?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
I do. You know, in Zimbabwe, the first implication of what had transpired is simply that you know, the polls, opinion polls, have pointed to the likelihood of the incumbent being elected. Now, when you have an assassination attempt, what does it mean? It simply means that you are not wanted, you are a person non grata. All right. That's the first point there.
And that people don't trust the polls.
Precisely.
Those people don't believe they can make change through peaceful means.
So you see, in this type of situation, as we have said, the incumbent president will need to go back to the drawing board for
preservation,
appraisal, and see what is waiting for him in future elections.
Well, I think if we just rephrase it, we should just say perhaps that, be it in Ethiopia or Zimbabwe or Nigeria, the people's sovereignty can best be defended only in an atmosphere of peace and security and stability. You know, and democracy will work for the people when the choice is through the ballot box and not through any other means.
Respected, yes, okay.
Anyway, we go on break again here on THISDAY Live, the Sunday talk show. When we return, we'll be discussing President Buhari's signing of the 2018 budget. Don't go away. Welcome back to THISDAY Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Now about the signing of the budget by President Muhammadu Buhari. On Wednesday, he signed the 2018 budget. The short ceremony, which took place at the president's office, had Senate President Bukola Saraki and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, representing lawmakers. President Buhari lamented that the National Assembly members had increased their own budget from 125 billion naira to 139.5 billion, resulting in an additional 14.5 billion. He also pointed out that the lawmakers added 6,403 projects of their own to the 2018 budget proposal sent to them. He said the projects added by the National Assembly have not been properly designed and will be difficult to execute. Now, during the week, we had a lot of that controversy between the executive and the legislature with a lot of name-calling on both sides, with the presidency saying that the lawmakers are greedy, and the lawmakers saying, well, a bill is a proposal, and it's part of their responsibility to alter, to amend, and to act in the best interest of Nigerians. Professor Kila, what do you think?
I think we're in a very bad situation. It's actually embarrassing when you see your lawmakers and your executive behaving this way. Let us start from the president. Mr. Excuse. Mr. It's always other people's fault. The situation between the executive, the presidency, and the legislator is a messy situation, but the bigger blame lies on the presidency. And it must be said very clearly so that we don't repeat it. Because it's elementary politics to know that the relationship between legislature and the executive has to be nurtured. That is why people have advisors on legislative affairs. That is why they have people who liaise with them. And this is worse because the APC, the party of the president, has an overwhelming majority in the House. So really, this is an internal issue that they can't even deal with. What will happen if they had a good opposition presence in that House? Do the legislators have the right and indeed the duty to review and amend the bill as sent to them? Yes, they do. Is it a good thing in times like this to be increasing the budget for their own self by close to 14 billion? Is it close to 15 billion? No, that's not a good thing. That's not the way to go about it. But when you look at a situation like this, you realize that what is missing is leadership. The presidency goes from aloof to baby crying to finger pointing. You can't manage a system like that.
Yeah, but the president raised some specific issues.
Yes.
He said, for example, that at a time when the government is working with labor to address compensation-related issues,
yes,
a total of 5 billion naira was cut from the provisions for pension redemption fund,
yes,
and public service wage adjustment.
Yes.
And that, those constituency projects, constituency projects have been very controversial. And that those constituency projects, they were not really accessed. Nobody has done any basic work. So, and that's the basis for the president saying, look, these lawmakers are greedy. They are not acting in the public interest.
Right, I agree with him, but he has lost the moral and political authority to say so. You see, you cannot say that if you haven't done your own job as well. And it's because they're doing that to him because they're saying, what can you do? Because he hasn't played enough politics at the right time.
Well, Prof, some people said, okay, if the president was not happy with the budget as returned to him for his signature,
why sign it?
Why should he sign it?
Well, you see, the president, the National Assembly, they are playing politics to the detriment of public interest.
I agree.
You see, what we are told, as reported in the press, Femi Adesina, in his press release or media chat.
No, press release.
Press release, okay. Told the people of Nigeria that the members of the National Assembly came to the presidency to ask for an increase in the already agreed benchmark for crude oil. That is, increase from 45 to 50.
Eventually,
and now,
they decided on $51 per barrel.
Yes. Now,
so an increase of $6.
Precisely.
Which brought in, additional funds for appropriation.
So in this case, the National Assembly requested Mr. President to kindly grant $2 out of the increase of
the $6
initially 5 before it was increased to 6, that they will now want to make use of the additional $2 for their own constituency projects. That amounted to about $170 billion. Now, the $3 left, the National Assembly asked Mr. President to think of more important strategic projects to which the money can be diverted and for development purposes. But Mr. President said, okay, of these $3, it is better to take $1.25 and not allow that one to be appropriated, but to be used, all right, to reduce the level of deficit.
Yes.
The budget deficit.
Budget deficit, fund deficit.
And then the difference can now
go into
other projects. This was the situation. So there was a sort of entente, a sort of understanding between and among the stakeholders in the presidency and the National Assembly. Now the critical point now is that if Mr. President is coming out to disagree, to abuse the National Assembly, when already you had negotiated. Now, I think they are taking the general public for granted.
Let me quickly raise another point that the President put across. He was saying, for example, that about 70 new road projects have been inserted into the budget of the Federal Ministry of Power and Works, for example, and Housing. And that in doing so, the National Assembly applied some of those additional funds expected from the upward review of the oil price benchmark to the ministry's vote. But regrettably, these, in the view of the executive, are not strategic projects because they removed from the budget meant for some strategic projects, like the Mambila hydropower project, like the second Niger Bridge, like the Bordeaux Expressway, like the Takpe, Agakuta Road project. This is where the contention is.
Yeah, but the argument of the National Assembly is simply that, look, they do not reflect federal character. Right? They are saying the principle of a federal character must be reflected.
Has been omitted in that.
So they've been giving these arguments and counter-arguments.
But you see, we go back to that, into the vacuum of leadership. With the National Assembly, you negotiate and you discuss. You get them on the same page. That is the whole point, so that you don't get conflict and you don't get surprises when things are meant to be signed. I go back to that point you were raising. I belong to that side. If the president thinks this is a budget of greedy people and it doesn't fit to his vision, he shouldn't sign it. He should turn it back.
But he signed giving the argument that for purposes of a compromise.
Yes.
All right?
But that compromise is coming 6 months
They're not going to
into
do
the year. So do you see the possibility of having any credible budget performance?
They just want money. Even he accepted, the presidency somewhere I read, accepted that this budget will not be implemented before in the time due. Even they know implementation is so suspected. I read someone, which I like to quote, one of the columnists was writing, I think it was today or yesterday, that the president, by signing this budget, looks like somebody who is drinking a poison that was brewed in front of him, and is now hoping.
Hemlock.
It's really hemlock. I mean, you say no, but for future reference, I've given up on the situation today. We just have to hope on the future. We hope that in a year from now, the presidency that we'll get will learn to dialogue with National Assembly, will show leadership, will not blame all the time, and will keep the people abreast of what is going on. A bit of presence, a bit of drama where necessary.
What are your thoughts, Prof, on the budget preparation process, the budget cycle, and the, this dissonance between input and outcomes? Yeah. Because, every year we're told that, okay, we will get the budget ready by January, but the back and forth just goes on, and half of the year, okay, we said a certain section of the Constitution allows you to do this, to do that. But at the end of the day, there's some kind of crisis.
The National Assembly has made it known that a minimum period of 3 to 6 months will be required.
Yeah, it's constitutional.
That they need to really sit down, think profoundly, and then come up with a good budget. Mr. President himself, at a point in time, directed all the MDAs to submit their proposals for consideration to go to the National Assembly and defend. But you see, these are more of rhetoric, generally speaking. I think the best way, since government is thinking of coming back to January, December cycle, rather than the way it is now, it can only be encouraged. And we just, I think we simply need to compel all the MDAs to submit their budget proposals at a particular time, let's say not later than October every year, so that the National Assembly can have adequate time to discuss that.
Well, Killer, your final thoughts on this before we move on.
Well, I think moving forward, we need to understand that budget is an important thing in governance. There has to be a clear plan to do it on time, to be able to implement it and to evaluate it. And also one thing that is missing, we should realize that budget is not just about naira and kobo. Budget should reflect the philosophy of governance in its content and the way it's managed.
If there is one. If there's philosophy.
If there's philosophy.
Yeah, but I mean, what you are saying is that there should be properly defined priorities.
Absolutely.
Which everybody knows.
And a commitment. Which
to
everybody
translate
knows.
Those priorities into action and projects.
Action. Which everybody knows and which everybody shares. And which everybody can see the road path to achieving those things.
Well, the funny thing about Nigeria is that we've been seeing these same things for more than a decade.
Yes.
You know, and no difference. You know, as
we shall keep saying it until they do it.
Great. Well, let's go on break and then we'll come back and look at something else. When we return, we'll be examining the federal government's plan to close the borders to end rice smuggling. We'll be back. Welcome back to THISDAY Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. The Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development in Nigeria said on Monday that the federal government will shut down the land border between Nigeria and a neighboring country in a few days to avoid the smuggling of rice into the country. While Aduogbe did not mention the particular country and border, he said shutting the borders has become necessary to encourage local production and sustain the economy of the country. Now, how does that solve the problem? Prof, let me start with you.
It's going to be very difficult to address positively. Reason one is that the country that has not been mentioned is surely, to begin with, Republic of Benin. It's one of them.
Where's that echo?
Now, the Republic of Benin does not, has not, and is not likely to adopt its annual budget without waiting for Nigeria's. Now, what Benin Republic does is to determine its own rates, tariffs, policies, after Nigeria will have come out with its own. If Nigeria is charging 10% on import rates, then Benin Republic will surely reduce it to about half. And that will naturally attract business. So from that perspective, when you close the border, fine, consistent with the policy of Benin Republic will only wait for the time you will come with your new policy approach.
Then, Prof, quickly, wouldn't this contradict the ECOWAS protocol on trade and integration and the free movement of goods and services? Well,
we know quite well that protectionism, all right, which everybody complains about, is always there. If, for instance, under the pretext of free movement of goods, right of establishment, as provided in ECOWAS protocol, we respect that. The main problem now is that other goods are coming from Europe through members of the ECOWAS. They are not goods originating
from their own country.
From the neighborhood.
But isn't there a common economic tariff in place in ECOWAS?
No.
Yeah,
on certain categories of goods?
On certain, yes.
No, you see...
external one to the ECOWAS body, you mean?
Okay, external?
Yes.
Okay.
So there are goods coming generally from the UK, France, all right, whose influence in the region is considerable. Now, another problem is the porosity of the borders. Now, when you ban rice, what about other products? Yes, you have sugar.
Inside which rice can be disguised.
You see, the many problems that we do have, which we do not talk about. What about goods coming from Niger, from Chad? Now, why is emphasis on southern borders?
No.
Now, you look at the borders with Cameroon too. This smuggling underground economy is thriving in all the borders.
But anyway, Professor Kila, let me take your thoughts on this so that we take one more interesting subject before we call it.
My thought is very simple and short on this, and it is that we have people who are dealing with digital times. In digital times, they're using analog solutions. That is a mindset. Protectionism, closing border. You cannot deal with these times in which we are in with those kind of solutions. You need to increase supply. You need to boost production in your country. You need to make a wider form of distribution. You need to be outselling your people you're importing from. This is not the way to deal with it. It's a very wrong way.
Yeah, particularly as the administration has been talking about prioritizing agriculture.
It's
and,
just
developing.
It is confused. It is slow. It's analog and is ineffective.
Well, on that note, we'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll take a quick look at the World Cup going on in Russia and Nigeria's performance. Welcome back to THISDAY Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. Nigeria got their first win of the 2018 FIFA World Cup in Russia by beating tournament debutants Iceland 2-0 in Volgograd. The result means the race for second place in Group D will go down to the last game on Tuesday. Ultimately, 3 teams will compete for a spot in the round of 16 on the final day, with the Super Eagles still able to top the group ahead of already qualified Croatia. The hero of the last match was undoubtedly Ahmed Musa, who came alive in the second half and played superbly, scoring both Nigerian goals. His first finish, in particular, will surely live long in the memory of Nigerians as one of the goals of the tournament. The result boosts Argentina's hopes as well as the Super Eagles, but Nigeria against Lionel Messi and co on Tuesday will see Ross side through alongside Croatia. Tough match, tough day on Tuesday. Nigerians were very happy when we managed to get those 2 goals and we got back into the competition. Now, Anthony Kila, what are you looking forward to on Tuesday?
On Tuesday against Argentina.
It's against Argentina.
It's against Argentina. This is the kind of
Lionel Messi.
This is the kind of
maybe merciless when he's on top of his.
This is the kind of match that when your contemporaries, when your friends from abroad or neutral people tell you that may the best side win, you win.
No, Nigerians actually have been very patriotic and supportive.
Yes, of this team. Well, we hope. I mean, we just have to give it our best. I mean, this is the time to remember that there are 11 boys on the field on both sides, 22 of you, a ball in the middle, and do your best. It's just a matter of focus. And Croatia has shown us that it is possible to beat Argentina.
Sure.
So, we just would focus on the right emphasis. Everything is possible. But the character they showed, and I watched him, it's been a long time I've seen a full match like that. The character they showed in the second half of the match against Iceland, if they can develop that spirit and control a few things, I think we can do well. And the nation needs some good news. We can beg Argentina to let us go ahead. They have won a lot.
But there have been complaints, from Mikel Obi, coming from Mikel Obi, about how Croatia doesn't want to field its best people, against Iceland. And that, Croatia should just be professional and get the thing done, and not throw the game away.
There's nothing you can do about that. It's not pleasant for Nigeria, but at this point, Croatia has the right to rest their team. Nigeria has done it in the past
that's
as
the
well.
excuse.
People do it. Once you have your 6 points and you know you're going, There's no point, putting out your best arsenal. You can rest. What we can hope for, everybody in the World Cup, that's why it's called finals, is a champion, and everybody will do their best when you get into that field. They shouldn't worry about that. They should focus on their own game. It really doesn't matter, honestly.
Prof, I would like to have your thoughts on this, but maybe you take along with what we want to say. What has been happening to our fans club in Russia? First, they wanted to take chickens into the stadium. They were told, no, this is not allowed here. If people want to eat chicken, you go to the restaurant. Right, but they said, a chicken is a symbol of the Super Eagles fans club. They wanted to go in with drums. They were also told you can't come in with drums. And the fans club have been complaining that we're being discriminated against constructively.
First, the point should be made that from historical records, Nigerian teams have always been very, very good. But whenever they start, engage in competitions, the first outing has not always been good. You only need to wait for them to go through the first match before they will now gather momentum. Now, I think the match with Croatia now served as a catalytic momentum for the guys, for the boys, for the Eagles. And this time, you will see that even with the game with Iceland, the first half was more or less still trying to study, to see what could be done. But when the Nigerian in them now began to circulate in their blood veins, and they could now see that, look, this is a matter of do or die. How are we going to go back with this? Now, the Nigerians...
They made us nervous, though.
Yes.
Nigerians were nervous. We were all
precisely.
On the edge of our seats.
So this time, they now decided to act like the typical Nigerian. This particular experience is certainly going to be displayed in the match with Argentina. I'm not afraid. Even if for whatever reason Argentina may have potential of defeating, it's not just going to be easy. Nigeria will come there and show that this time is Nigerian play. And now in terms of the fans club, please, I do not know the official regulations guiding...
chicken and drums.
Yes, but it is a violation of the freedom to listen to our local music. It's a violation of our own tradition, because
also as some fans were allowed to bring in vuvuzela.
No, I think the Russians are just being silly. They should just tell her they're being silly. And should allow Nigerians
so it's not acceptable.
Including chickens?
Of course. What's going to happen?
They're eating. It's not...
no, it's not chicken. Live chickens. Live chickens.
But even so, whether life or not, it's not going to make any difference.
But anyway, apart from the football, which is the main thing, Nigeria is being celebrated for the beauty of our jerseys.
Of our jersey, yes.
The best.
We seem to have been, labeled the most fashionable team.
My goddaughter.
Would that be enough? Or?
Well, it's a good start.
No, but we should appreciate the fact that Nigeria introduced entertainment politics there. We were on record, in the past.
Yes.
We were the one coming dancing. All these, the style of other teams dancing, Our own special dancing is what others are now trying to copy. And I think it's a major contribution to it.
They've been dancing before we qualified.
No. Dancing...
We have to start winding down. Killer, let me come to you. There have been a lot of complaints, in spite of what we did against Iceland, about the technical quality of the Nigerian team.
Yes.
I mean, Mascherano, one of the Argentine superstars, said, look, the thing about Nigerians is that they are so disorganized that when you play against them, their disorganization disorganizes you.
Yes.
And the Argentinians we'll probably be expecting that on Tuesday, we will come with that disorganized style of play. But at the level of the World Cup, I think it's about technical quality. I don't think this team has done very well in terms of quality, technical quality.
No, they haven't. You can see the lapses there. I mean, look, this team we played with, which is looking like a very strong team, Iceland, by itself is not a very strong team, but they're very organized. That is the key thing. But I think what we saw in that second half, because the first half was almost going to give somebody a heart attack. But the second half, they came and they had a game. They played long and they played wide. And you could see the difference immediately. If they can do that, that's what we need to do. For the viewers, especially people like you, Prof, that you're so energetic about this thing, some basic rules to everybody before watching the Eagles on Tuesday. Eat before the match, about 2 hours before. Take your medicine if you have to. Find a comfortable place to sit down. Do not jump up and down with them because you are not a player, you are a watcher. And maybe we should remain calm.
This is the beautiful thing about Nigerians. They are all experts when it comes to football. Anyway, you've been watching THISDAY Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From our entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now. And thank you very much for watching. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having us.